Hello, this is Olivier Beau from the Ordo Iuris Institute, and I'm very happy to have with us Tina Descovich from Moms for Liberty, a very important organization in the United States when it comes to protect and defend children's rights and parents' rights in American schools. So, Tina, could you please first tell us what's your role at Moms for Liberty? I know you're a founder. And what's Moms for Liberty?
Moms for Liberty is a national nonprofit here in the United States. Our goal is to protect parental rights, defend parental rights, make sure that parents are the ones making the ultimate decisions for their children, whether that be in their education, their medical care, their moral and religious upbringing. I am the co-founder of the organization, and I currently serve as the CEO leading the organization.
So, what kind of issues have there been across America, across American states when it comes to schools and education? Why did you need to create Moms for Liberty?
So I served on a school board here in Florida. In the United States, you're elected to school boards. And so I served for 4 years, 2016 to 2020. And I learned a lot about education in America at the time, a lot of the problems with education in America at the time. And then when 2020 happened and COVID came about, parents were starting to rise up in America. They were frustrated that schools were staying closed for, in some places, over 2 years. They were frustrated at a lot of the policies that were being put in place, and they were showing up at school board meetings to speak out, but they really didn't understand the process. They didn't understand how to impact and affect change. And then as school started happening at home and lessons were coming into their houses, parents started seeing what their kids were learning, and they were very upset about that too. And so we started Moms for Liberty to help parents become better advocates, help them understand their rights better, understand how to impact the curriculum that was being taught to their children, the lessons that were being taught, the policies that were being made. We launched in January 1st, 2021. We are now almost 5 years old, and we are in 48 of the 50 states. We're in 320 counties. We have 130,000 active members, and we help we help candidates get elected to school boards. We help pass policy at the state level and federal level, and we've just had an enormous impact on our country.
And what is it the kids were learning which worried the parents so much when they discovered that?
Well, one of the problems was the lack of what they were learning. Parents saw that the quality of education that was being taught was not so great. But the other problem was some of the content of things that were being taught. And some of those things would be anti-American lessons, teaching that the founders of America and our founding documents were bad for one reason or another. They started seeing that kids were learning about gender instead of sex being male and female. They started learning this thing called gender, and that there was dozens of types of genders and that kids could choose them. They started seeing inappropriate content, even in like math word problems. They started seeing critical race theory, which was dividing students in lessons between races and saying that one race was more superior than the other. One race was oppressive and the other race was victims. And interestingly enough, the way that always outlined was that the Black students in America were victims. And what we saw happen in 2021 was Black mothers starting to rise up and saying, my children are not victims, and you're not going to teach my children that they're victims. And so it was causing a lot of division in our country, the things that were being taught in schools.
And concerning this gender ideology or gender theory, have schools played a role in this extraordinary rise of the number of young people who have what we now call gender dysphoria, and also the number of young people who are being treated with heavy medical treatments, chemical treatments, and including with surgery? Do you think the schools have played a role?
They've played a massive role, and at the highest level of policy. So the way we're structured is, like I said, we have local school districts that have school boards, but mostly our states they have the overarching control over education in each state. And so whole states like New Jersey, their state board of education adopted comprehensive sex ed several years ago, which, to some people, comprehensive sex ed just sounds like, oh, they're going to learn about the biology of sexual relations, but that's not the case at all. Comprehensive sex ed is often pleasure-based. The material that it covers is wholly inappropriate, not even age appropriate. And one of the biggest problems with comprehensive sex ed in the standards of the comprehensive sex ed is starting in pre-K, you learn that you can be a boy or a girl, neither or both, so you can change your gender. And so what we're seeing now is as kids are getting older, they're just very confused. We've taken away that basic, simple truth that you're born either a male or female, and we have convoluted that and distorted it, and it destabilizes children.
And have things improved now that Donald Trump is back in the White House? Has there been a change, or maybe it's more a thing of the states, of the individual states? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, kudos to President Donald Trump for all the actions he has taken. He has enacted numerous executive orders stopping boys and girls sports, and I'd say rooting out this gender ideology in the federal government, and stopping or trying to stop the transition either through chemicals like pills or actual surgery of children changing their gender before they're old enough to even be accountable to make these decisions. So he has implemented these executive orders, but in the United States of America, that only goes so far. What will happen is if a Democrat or someone that believes in these ideologies is elected in 3 more years, all of those executive orders will be undone. And so we're not in that great of shape because the laws are not sustainable. We need to have our Congress pass laws. We need to have our states pass laws. We need amendments in our states. We need policies at the most local level in school districts. It's really quite something to see that the President of the United States has signed these orders, but then we have school districts that are just saying we're not going to follow them. And so now we have all these lawsuits ensuing. Another thing that happened this year is the Supreme Court ruled on a case that Moms for Liberty actually has a plaintiff in, saying that parents have the fundamental right to opt their children out of some of these ideologies and lessons that are being put into schools. And so there's a shift in America with Donald Trump's leadership, but this ideology is so insidious and it's so weaved into everything, not just education. American Pediatrics Association has bought in. The Psychology Association has bought in. Corporate America has bought in. And so rooting it out and getting it out of America is, it's going to take a long time and a lot of work.
And it seems it's coming to Poland. I mean, this ideology is in Poland, but it's coming to Polish schools this year, from September this year, with a new curriculum, which is bundled in a health education program, so that people who protest that can only be mean people who don't want their children to be educated about their health. But it seems to me that it's the same kind of education, because it is going to teach children that the only condition to have sex, whatever your age, is mutual consent, not love and the desire to establish a long-standing relationship and a family. Is going to have also elements taken from the gender theory, like teaching children that there are different gender identities, as you said. I don't remember how many, and different sexual orientations, which are all valuable. So what would be your message to Polish parents who still have the choice? They can still decide that their children won't attend this course, and it's thanks to the action of many social organizations, including the Ordo Iuris Institute. We've put a lot of pressure, as you know, because you were in Poland earlier this year, meeting people from these organizations. So what would be your message, having been for years at the head of Moms for Liberty, having led this struggle in America? What would you tell Poles about this?
I would speak directly to Polish parents with everything I have in me and tell them to fight this ideology in your schools with everything you have. Opt your children out. Do not expose them to this. It is not loving and open minded to expose your children to this. It is harmful to your children. You are doing damage to your children by allowing them and their young minds to be taught that they are not a child of God. It is damaging them to allow them to be taught that they can change their gender with their emotions. It's damaging to your children. And we are watching what's happening in America right now, and it is not good. It is destroying our country. It is destroying our families. It is destroying our schools and our communities. It is a rot. And if Poland can stop it now or protect their children, they need to do that. As you said, I was there with you earlier this year, and I was so pleasantly surprised to know that Poland has not adopted this ideology because it is in every corner of the world right now. I was at a conference in London last year speaking to families from Kenya and South Africa, and they were saying in their villages these ideologies have been adopted because they're coming with the dollars from the UN and UNESCO and other Planned Parenthood, International Planned Parenthood Federation. So kudos to Poland for standing as strong as they have for so long, but do not let this insidious ideology get to your children.
And that's stunning that it happens around the world, but it does. We know something about it. We were at a conference in Nairobi about the family a few months ago too, and they have the same kind of problems. As you said, it comes with the dollars from international organizations, from the European Union as well. And there seems, some voices, including in the US, accuse Big Pharma of being at least in part a contributor to this ideology because they actually make good business on those kids. I mean, when a kid decides that he or she belongs to the other sex, they embark on a lifelong treatment. Series of heavy treatments that are detrimental to their health, but which are very beneficial to Big Pharma. Would you comment on this?
Yeah, of course they support it. They have a customer for life. They have destroyed your child. Once you have a sex change, once you go on those puberty blockers, they now have you as a customer paying for medications. And then when you start moving into a transition, you are now a customer for life. You can never undo what you have done to your body. And so you will be forever dependent on the medical system, on medications, on additional surgeries to fix problems. Your mental health will never be restored. And so, of course, they support it. It's disgusting. If I sound angry, I very much am. What I'm seeing happening to children in America and to my country is starting to make me very angry.
And what about the issue of those young people often having actually some mental health issues? There was this report in the UK about this Tavistock gender dysphoria clinic of the NHS when it appeared that I think it's something like 80% of the children that were treated for gender dysphoria had the symptoms of autism. And I think some studies of the same kind were issued in the US. And isn't there a public health issue here? You stop, and we stop, because the same is starting to happen in Poland, treating young people with mental health issues. And then you have this outcome in the US where you can see some school shootings by transgender people. Many of the recent school shootings that have happened in the US were at the hand of transgender people. So is there a public health issue linked to the lack of appropriate treatment to young people with actual mental health issues?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things to unpack there. One, the Tavistock either ended up closing down the department that was doing surgeries for children, or it shut down completely. I would have to double check that. I would say the UK is 5 to 10 years ahead of us of what they're doing, and so they have started to learn through the research, the children they were harming. They've started to see how many autistic children they were performing surgeries on. It's not okay. It's not okay to take a child that's either autistic or struggling with mental health issues and teach them that. Let's just take a step back. If you have anorexia, for example, and you think you're fat when you're not, we don't affirm that. The medical community does not go in and say, yes, you're really fat, and give you medications and do surgeries to harm your body even more. And so when you look at what they're doing with children with autism or children with gender dysphoria by affirming, there couldn't be anything more dangerous and more unacceptable. And so you've got these children that you're affirming their mental health issues, and you are saying, we can fix that with this drug. We can fix that with this surgery. And what the UK has found out is the drugs and the surgery are not fixing the problem. Of course they're not. Any rational, normal thinking person knows that it's not fixing the problem. And so America's starting to wake up to this, but we are behind the UK on it.
And my last question would be about this pushback against gender ideology, which is occurring in the UK, but also you're saying in the US at an earlier stage still. Is the opposition to this gender ideology and being packed in this comprehensive sex education in school more a thing of the provinces, I mean, the countryside and the small towns, like in Poland it is, there is stronger opposition to this in towns and in the countryside than in big cities. Is it the case also in the US, or do you have many moms for liberty fighting against this in big cities in America?
Yeah, we have Moms for Liberty chapters in 320 counties in 48 states. So we are everywhere, big cities, countryside. But the fight against radical ideologies is definitely stronger in the suburbs and in the countryside. The big cities tend to be more liberal in America. They tend to house more radicals. You can just look at our election maps, even from presidential elections, and you'll see the entire country covered in red, and then hubs, big hubs in the major cities of blue, which is Democrats and leftist ideologies. So no one is surprised. I think that's pretty consistent around the country. And more people in the countryside have to stand firm and speak up.
And do you have good hope you're going to win this fight?
I do have hope we're going to win this fight. We've had so many good signs. I mean, the election of Donald Trump was one. The election in other offices is to, Charlie Kirk was assassinated last week for speaking many of these truths that we all hold dear. But what we've seen from the youth of America and how they've risen up since the assassination gives me great hope for the future of our country.
Thank you very much. This was Tina Descovich from Moms for Liberty. Moms fighting for their liberties and their children's rights. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great to be with you again, and hopefully I'll get to come back to Poland soon.